Good morning, Leigh.
Good morning, Fi. How are you?
Do you know what? I'm actually looking out of my window right now at a beautiful blue sky and sunshine. I feel like an absolute hog. I have had a horrible cold for about a week because I went to a wedding and at that wedding, it poured with sort of almost like apocalyptic levels with rain. And for the entire day, I was just sort of soaked to my skin.
That's so tough when you're like dressed up so you can't like just go in and change.
No. And when like a parent is always like, take a coat, don't sit in wet clothes.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I had to do for a day.
But it's like, what is one supposed to do? Put an anorak over a wedding outfit? Like,
thank you. Like I looked amazing, but I have since just struggled with a horrible heavy cold. But enough about my sort of respiratory health. How are things with you?
Good. Me and Lizzie are going to pick up our new kitchen on Saturday. So that's very thrilling. She has a little black heart over her nose.
I can't wait. Leigh and Lizzie already have a cat. And I can't express how absolutely furious he is going to be about having to share the limelight. Because he's a very sophisticated gentleman.
He is.
And he does like to be kind of the main, he likes to be the headliner of kind of any experience.
Me and Lizzie were rewatching The Hunger Games last night. And,
wow.
Tigress came on screen. And we were talking about like what characters in The Hunger Games we would each be, and Lizzie would be like, let's be realistic, I'm Tigress. And then Rory just went like, argh! And we were like, okay, no, it's fine, Rory, you're Tigress.
Sure. Okay. No one's taking that away from you. Yes. Leigh, I'm really glad that we're doing this because this episode that we're going to discuss has been living rent-free in my mind since I watched it. I have so much to say. I have so many thoughts.
I've been itching to talk to you about this. Itching. I'm also super excited about the study session for it.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah. It's just all coming back to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we are here this week, dear listeners of Queer Gals Watch the West Wing, to discuss season 3, episode 8, The Women of Qumar.
Mm-hmm. I know this is one that the patrons have been really excited for us to talk about. And as we were getting into it, I was like, oh, I know why.
Within the first few minutes, I was like, oh.
It's also the fact that like the previously on is exclusively Donna and Josh.
Yeah, I mean, then they know what they're doing. So yeah, let's just
get into it. Yeah.
So yeah, the previously on is literally just kind of like almost like rom-com recap of Donna and Josh's relationship thus far.
Mm-hmm.
The whole kind of like friendship, relationship, will they, won't they ship of it all. And I'm just going to say, if they tease us with stuff like this and we don't get at least one juicy scene this season where they talk about their feelings,
it's worse than like a lesbian rom-com. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know that I do. Please explain.
Well, just in lesbian content, I feel like you have to watch 4 seasons before anyone kisses.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Many lingering looks.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of fingers brushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no embracing.
Mm-hmm.
Just the kind of like a lot of breathing.
Yeah. By candlelight. In a period drama.
Preferably by candlelight. We open this week at a press briefing with the news that Jed Bartlet is being sued.
Yes.
Which is something that I didn't know that you could do.
Yeah.
Sue the president. But apparently loads of people do it all the time, which is kind of quite comic in a way.
Yeah.
But the reason why he's actually being sued is reasonably dark, which is it's to do with him making a comment about seatbelts.
Yes.
Which isn't very rock and roll, to be honest. Because do you know what's rock and roll? Wearing your seatbelt.
Could not agree more.
Safe driving, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's also one of those press briefings where CG no one seems to have briefed her
Yes.
And I always hate that for her.
Yeah, I really was kind of watching going, can someone please get CJ some actual facts?
Someone pass her a memo for the love of God. Carol. The news about the seatbelt comes from a really great kind of Sorkin-esque joke. You know, one that kind of like lasts for about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of conjecture over the name of a newspaper.
Yeah, no one knowing the name of the Rocky Mountain newspaper is full Sorkin.
They're like, is it the Rocky Mountain Bugler? Or no, it's the Rocky Mountain Bugle. No, it's the Rocky Mountain Herald. No, it's the Rocky Mountain News. And it just keeps going like through some walk and talks as well. But I do enjoy that. It's nice when Aaron is being like lighthearted because I know that there's darkness to come.
And we've also come from a reasonable amount of. It is lovely to see sunlight has re-emerged into the series.
To be able to see characters' facial expressions is a real treat. Meanwhile, Toby Ziegler's storyline this week is that he is kind of handling some disgruntled veterans.
Yes.
Who don't want to come to an anniversary thing. Now, it's winter, so I was like, oh, what anniversary would this be? Because I got confused because I was assuming that like anniversaries would only be the ends of things. So I was there like in my mental like A-level history brain trying to work out what ended in December. But of course, it's actually the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack.
Yes, on December 7th, 1941.
And so we're firmly in December now within the story. So we're in holiday season. Thanksgiving is past. And now we're rolling up to Christmas.
Yeah.
In the bleak midwinter. In many ways, yes.
Yeah.
Also, I'm excited for Toby to interact with veterans again because we know how strongly he feels about the veteran community.
Oh my God. I completely blanked that out.
I'll never forget the coat incident.
I think I blocked it out because it was too upsetting.
I mean, that's understandable.
Yeah.
So that's bubbling away. Now, the kind of main meat of this episode is surrounding the like sale of arms and or access to a like military air base in a place called Qumar in the Middle East. And this place is fictional.
Thank God.
Yes, created for the show, which they have done previously before. We kind of get this information because Jed's being briefed, and we can kind of tell from his behavior that this fictional place is a terrible place for women.
Yes.
Cue this little back and forth between Toby and Jed. May I be Jed? How do I deal with the guilt?
Be more like me.
Wow. Okay, Toby.
Toby and Jed love each other so much, and it's so beautiful.
You know what? There's so much like kind of wry half smiles between the two of them. A lot of like kind of knowing looks.
Thank God. I feel like Toby's not mad at Jed anymore.
No, I think they're in a better place.
It's been healed.
Now, what I will take umbrage with is what Jed says next, which is about CJ. He says, she knows who the good guys are, right?
Right. I have so much to say about this. It's the most toxic thing Jed has ever said.
And it really threw me because I was like, oh, whoa. I really wasn't expecting that out of the mouth of this character who's like, he's a girl dad.
He is a girl dad.
He's a girl dad. He has like a high-powered wife.
Yeah.
You know, he like is interested in like women's rights. And then for him to just be like, but like, I know that like CJ's a woman, but like, could she not like make a problem about women's rights here? Cause like it's kind of a busy day at work. Be better, Jed.
Be better. I have so much to say about good guys in our society.
Ugh.
I think anyone who identifies as a good guy is actually tends to be quite gaslighting and toxic because no one is good 100% of the time.
No.
And if you're using I'm a good guy as a shield, it means you're not ready to face up or take accountability for anything because your identity as a good guy means that you don't believe that you could ever possibly be in the wrong. And I have had so many issues with men who kind of give themselves that title and therefore refuse to ever accept that they could have a racist view, done something racist, a misogynistic view that they've not interrogated. Accountability.
For me, the worst thing about it is the self-identifying as a good guy.
Yes.
I think to give yourself that title is possibly one of the worst things a man can do.
Because we're all a work in progress at the end of the day.
We all have to learn all the time, and that's just part of being human. And getting things wrong is part of that experience. And I just really hate when people are like, God, doesn't she know I'm just a good guy? No, I don't. Well,
in the interests of also taking accountability, I did want to mention that our patrons did take umbrage. It will be a few episodes ago now at time of release, but they did take umbrage with our treatment and discussion of Danny Concannon. They felt that we did him a disservice in our discussion with him by calling Will Sawyer second draft Danny Concannon. There are a lot of Danny Concannon stans and shippers in the wingnut community, as it turns out, and people feel quite passionately about him. And I do have to say, I did forget his kind of mentorship conversation with Charlie that was very beautiful. And we're not saying there's not obviously positive aspects to him as a character. He was, for much of his tenure, very fun.
Look, I liked Danny Concannon as much as the rest of you guys. I love a bit of secret kissing. Yum, yum. But what I'm going to say is I struggle to think about men when I can't visibly see them. I literally they could not pass through my mind. So I think my biggest issue with Danny is that where is he?
Yeah.
I think he was great. I think that he was a great love interest for CJ without it being all about their relationship. I think that's brilliant writing. I do think that he was a real like kind of leveling voice within the West Wing community of characters because he cut through, he wasn't Bartlet affiliated. So I think that was kind of nice that he kind of came as a layman quite often. I thought he was cute. I liked his style. Where is he? Bring him back. If he's in Mandyland, well then I toast to him and good luck and farewell.
Yeah. Pour one out for Danny Concannon.
Honestly, have a little sip of my tea and think fondly on the. Also, like he brought us Gale.
He did.
We can't underestimate the importance of Gale, both symbolically and just like generally as a member of CJ's family.
Yes.
Should we use this as a springboard to talk about Donna and Josh?
More specifically, Donna's maroon suit.
Yeah,
it was a wow.
To see her in like a full outfit, because so often I do feel like, and we've mentioned this, the kind of Bartlet West Wing at the moment is very like slacks and a nice top, which is great. And what a relief for all of the working women there.
Yeah.
That they can, do the female equivalent of like suit, trousers and shirt.
Yeah.
But Donna has gone for a full, I think her and Margaret went shopping.
Yes. Yes, agreed. What a fun Saturday out.
Day out, yeah. And when like Margaret was like, let's grab lunch, and Donna was like, I don't know, like that me and Margaret had that much in common. And then Margaret was like, I'll have a martini. And Donna was like, oh, this kind of lunch. Okay, yeah, I'll have a large glass of Pinot Grigio, please.
I love the idea of Donna and Margaret hitting up the Bon Marché, as it would have been known, what later became Macy's. Yeah. I love the idea of them hitting up Bloomingdale's together. Yeah, beautiful.
And Margaret being like, but you need to have a slingback heel and a nude. You're an executive assistant. I mean, I hate to be one to tell you this, Donna, but we can't be running around in these college girl outfits. And I think they're firmly the same age as well, which is yes. Phenomenal. Anyway, Donna walks into Josh's office, which she's allowed to do as his assistant. Yeah. And she is greeted with what, Leigh?
Could I get 5 minutes without being interrupted by banality?
Cue the greatest entrance of all time in this show. It's not banality, it's the boss's wife.
As she's being wheeled in by an aide, still in her wheelchair.
Enter Stockard Channing in her wheelchair. I love that Stockard was like, I won't use crutches. I will be wheeled. Stunning. Just the fact that the unnamed aide just like stands behind her chair the entire time in this scene is phenomenal. Now, the reason why Stockard has blessed us with her presence is that there is a women's group. They're a little riled up, and Stockard's like, you need to go and talk to them. So the reason why this women's group is so, to use Josh's phrase, overreacting, I'd really think twice about using the word overreacting with reference to women, is because there is a new UN treaty being drawn up about exploitation in the sex work industry, particularly kind of like forced prostitution and trafficking. And essentially this kind of US political, I guess like lobbying group isn't happy with the wording of this treaty, and so is basically pushing for the government not to support it because they don't think that it's tough enough.
Yes, because I think the specific issue that they're taking with it is the use of the word forced, because they say
all prostitution is forced.
All sex work is coerced, because it's about the economic position that the women are in that then leads them to choose sex work, which...
Yes. Leigh and I will get into in some detail later on when we meet the character in question, because we have our opinion and everyone's allowed their opinion, but we perhaps don't agree with her opinion.
Yeah, and I think that is maybe to do with the difference between, and I love my Gen X white women in my life, but it is maybe a difference generationally
for sure
between where Gen X white women landed in 2000 versus where we are in 2025.
For sure. Now, Leigh, we must, before we move on, briefly discuss how Abby Bartlett exits this room.
She's reversed out.
She maintains eye contact with Josh Lyman as she is very slowly wheeled backwards out of the doorway by, again, her nameless aide. Stunning. So to a B plot, which I think Leigh was like losing her mind in the shared document about this B plot. And as a child who grew up in the farming community, Leigh, I can't wait to teach you something about this. So Leo is pulled aside with a kind of big piece of news to keep under his hat for now, which is essentially a cow somewhere in America.
A singular cow.
A singular cow has tested positive for mad cow disease. And what do we love about this, Leigh? What do we love about Leo's reaction?
What we love about this, Leo McGarry, is Leo's first reaction is, someone needs to teach me about this. Beautiful. Yes. Beautiful. That is leadership. That is non-toxic leadership.
And I feel like we were robbed of the scene where like a really earnest person from a research department arrived with like a file of facts, like a binder, and sat down in like a conference room, and like Margaret arrived and like gave them coffee, and then like they talked to Leo for an hour. And then they went home and they were like, that was the best day of my life.
Yeah, honestly, someone needs to teach me about this is the hottest thing I've ever heard a man say.
Yeah.
I was aroused.
Hard agree. I just think when people admit that they don't know something about something, and that if you know something, they're like, oh, I'd love you to explain that to me. Like, that's the equivalent of like 2 to 3 dates, I think.
And it's not invasive. It's not a man at the pub who I've never met before being like, but how does lesbian sex work?
Yes, that's key. What we do have in this episode, Leigh, is a really lovely, it's kind of a snapshot moment, but we get to see CJ's full team.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
So we're like post press briefing in like CJ's, like, I guess CJ's bullpen, like kind of her group of officers. And I feel like we have gone through 3 seasons without really seeing more than just Carol.
It's so important in terms of giving her status, because we're finally admitting that she has a super high up job and she has a full staff of her own, not just a sidekick. With obviously all due respect and love for Carol. Carol is like a perfect number 2. But
also it gives Carol more power as well, because it's like Carol's like all of the information is coming to her and she's filtering it, and then she's the person that gives it on to CJ. Yeah. And the duality of it is that both of them are raised up in their status by seeing this team. CJ is obviously I'm surely well aware of who the good guys are. But she's allowed to have her own opinions. And when Toby is kind of discussing with her about the kind of arms agreement with Qumar, there's a knowing look between her and Carol, which is everything.
Yeah.
And then Toby says to her, don't start.
No.
Again, didn't expect that from Toby Ziegler. Don't start? What? Don't have an opinion? How incredibly rude. I hope he goes away and thinks about it. And also, if you have ever met CJ Cregg and you say don't start, what's she going to do, Leigh?
She's going to start. She's going to fucking start.
She's going to fucking start. We then have a lovely little walk and talk between Toby and Sam regarding the seatbelt storyline and the suing of Jed Bartlet. Now, I'm with Sam. If we don't do anything, then the story becomes a story.
Yes.
And in this show, if we talk about something and we say it's not going to be a big deal, it becomes a big deal.
It's inevitably a big deal. Yeah.
And also, Sam loves a really niche task.
He does.
Let the boy work.
Yeah.
Let the boy work. To a little Jed and Charlie moment.
Yes. Obsessed that Jed is a Celtics fan.
Of course he is. Because isn't that, where did he go? He went to university in...
He went to Notre Dame in Indiana.
And isn't there some sort of Irish connection there?
Yes, it's a Catholic university.
Yes. And there was something when we were watching one of those episodes about like the Fighting Irish.
Oh, yes. That's the mascot. That's the Notre Dame mascot. Yeah.
Cool. I really enjoy sort of sports banter because I feel like Jed's like kind of like a sporty guy, but like not a sports guy.
Because he likes all sports. Wasn't he trying to watch the softball?
I see this, for me, I think that's more attractive when people are just like, I kind of just love sports.
Love watching sport.
I just love watching people do the thing that they're really good at and being passionate about it. I think that's incredibly attractive. I also think that Charlie just like throwing out they got crushed.
Yeah.
Is very fun too.
I also love that Charlie isn't in trouble for studying at work. Jed just like genuinely wants to know about what he's studying.
Yeah, and what he's studying currently is modern history, and Jed has opinions on this.
Modern American history sucks.
He loves saying that things suck.
He's really into it at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, do you think it's because he feels like he can't curse?
I think Aaron Sorkin has just decided that it's really funny for Jed to be like this very serious man with a lot of gravitas, just walking around saying things suck.
Yeah. Definitely.
But he says modern American history sucks. But then he goes on to talk about the Crusades. Dare I say, Jed, the Crusades have never once come up as relevant in my day-to-day life, but modern American history very much has. It's
so on brand for his character, like to be like, he loves like ancient things, like he loves like old books and Latin. The next thing that you wrote down in the shared doc, which is a direct quote from Jed Bartlet, was I think one of my favorite lines in the entire episode. Modern American history is another name for television.
Which is so funny. And it's funny on multiple levels because it's essentially Aaron Sorkin having a meta moment like he had a couple of weeks ago with the I'm too sexy joke. But
yes.
But it's basically Aaron Sorkin going, I am history, hear me roar.
Yeah. Then we kind of wrap up that tomfoolery. Leo arrives and CJ, and we kind of talk about a few of the matters of the week, which we think are going to be kind of precedent to the press. Now, I think that this is talking about the mad cow thing, isn't it? So at the moment, all we have is the information that the cow tested positive and that test is now being sent to the UK to be like ratified, basically to be like checked against their system.
I think they say, is it a presumptive positive?
There we go. That's the terminology. So this presumptive positive test has been sent to the UK to be double checked. And essentially, Leo's instinct is, if we let the public know about this, there's going to be mass panic. And it could be that actually this is something that is a one-off and doesn't need to be a problem. Now, I align myself partially with Leo on this, but also with CJ, because CJ says, I don't know how many more times we can get caught keeping a secret.
Yeah, ultimately, if the word gets out, and I do see what she's saying in that, like, there's no way that they can guarantee that one of the scientists who's aware of the situation, one of the farmers, anybody, this isn't a closed conversation. So if it gets leaked to the press, then I think the mass panic is going to be even bigger than if they just announced it.
Yeah, super tricky situation. And actually, the kind of end of that scene is CJ really saying her piece on that, but also kind of bringing in the storyline about Qumar and the arms deal that they're doing. And I do think that we wouldn't have seen CJ do that last season.
No, and what I do appreciate as well is that in this scene, we see her say her piece, accept the decision that's being made, which is not what she advocated for, and then her being able to walk away. And I do think that's quite big character growth, that she is not taking personal emotional responsibility for every decision that she disagrees with. She's simply able to say her piece and then walk away. And I think that's a really healthy boundary for CJ.
Yeah. And she kind of gets the last word as she exits. She says, 3 weeks ago, a woman in Qumar was executed for adultery. She didn't need a lawyer because there was no trial. It was her husband's word against hers. Later today, I'm going to be announcing that we're selling them tanks and guns. And then Leo just shrugs and she leaves. Mm-hmm. But Leo's just a good guy.
He's just a good guy.
And I guess she's just overreacting and starting. But more on that, because we really do need to go to the Women's Leadership Coalition.
Boy, do we need to.
Wow. Okay. Welcome to the best storyline ever in this TV show.
Best moment of my life. Josh has to go for a meeting at the Women's Leadership Coalition. I'm thrilled.
Would you like to be Josh and I'll be the receptionist?
Sure. This is interesting art on the walls. A lot of very strong women who could hurt me.
Only if you provoke them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure she's busy with something very important or she wouldn't make you wait.
Oh, I was just like, I love that she's not even entered yet. And I'm like, I need to understand what the energy is around Amy Gardner. She was built up in such a beautiful way that I was like, what is going to walk in?
I love the idea that before we saw her, she was just she.
Yeah.
She wouldn't make you wait.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, like you say, the framing is stunning because we're shooting from over her shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So she speaks to Josh and he looks up and we see him take her in before we see her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. Now, Leigh, I think it's time for us to discuss Special J. How do we feel about the nickname Special J? What the fuck, man? That's her opening gambit.
I do.
Special J. And he's like, Amy.
I did like immediately that she calls him by a nickname that no one else uses. That really, for me, I was like, ooh, intrigue. She knows him from another era.
Honestly, the way he looks at her.
The way that he just says Amy in response, it's like, I was immediately like, is Josh in love with her?
Yeah. And then she's like, thanks for waiting. I was playing Nintendo. What the fuck, man?
I immediately am obsessed with her. Immediately.
We then go into Amy's office. Leigh and I got very excited because the dressing of her office was quite fun, including some photographs on her desk of children.
I really thought she was going to be a working mom because there's a picture of a baby on her desk. And I was like, that would maybe be the first working mom besides the first lady that we've met in this show.
Yeah. And actually she goes on to talk about the fact that she has nephews. And Leigh was like, oh, obviously we love fun aunties. But I completely agree with what you put in the shared doc, which is there is no high-level woman that we see in this show who has kids, apart from Abby.
Yeah, but she's not really actively in her working life.
No. And I think that's, when you wrote that, I was like, oh, that made me really go back and look at the depiction of women in specifically dramas that I've watched that were made in this era. And I was like, you know what? Any depiction of someone who is a working mum, for the most part, it's how much they're barely getting by.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that here at the turn of the millennium, the idea of a woman being able to actually have a plan in place and like be able to like manage childcare and also her job, whether that's something that she's doing with a partner or with like a childminder or babysitter. It's like that's not ever something that's like working out well at this period of time. I just think that's quite culturally interesting.
Agreed.
But let's get into it with Amy. So we love Amy. We love the energy Amy that has with Josh. We love that she works with this high-powered coalition. I'm afraid that I disagree with Amy on the issue of sex work.
Agreed.
So Amy it took me a while to like kind of cut through the language.
Yeah.
In this UN treaty, it's about forced prostitution. And Amy herself and the coalition have issue with the term forced prostitution. And they think it should just be prostitution that is banned by this UN treaty. And then she's like, and these are the reasons why. And she gives this long list of examples. And under my understanding of terminology, everything that she's listing is trafficking and is not actually sex work.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think we would get along. But I think what you said earlier was so insightful, which is there is a kind of faction of feminists, a lot of whom are kind of Gen Xers or the generation above, who are very clued up about lots of different women's rights issues, but perhaps their experience of life means that they're very set in a certain trench about sex work.
Yes.
And having friends who are in sex work themselves, I'm like, I don't buy into the concept that people are forced into it because of economic issues. I know lots of people who choose it because it's work that fits around their life, that works with being able to take care of their children, that is a really great way for them to make money, but also have time in the day to work on other projects. And also women who are like, I just enjoy it.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's also important to say that, you know, sex work can take many forms, you know, whether that's being like an OnlyFans content creator, whether that's being a dancer in a club, like there's just...
It's a broad church.
It's a really broad church.
I think maybe that's where Amy and I are kind of, I think for her, it's a very solid line. Whereas I think now in the year 2025, it's so much broader than that.
Yeah.
And my issue with the kind of anti-sex work movement is, unfortunately, in the Western country that I live in, it's a patriarchal society, and men and women and everyone want to pay for sex. That is something that is not going to change.
It's famously the oldest profession.
Exactly. Banning something, making something illegal doesn't mean that it's not going to exist. And actually creating an environment where people can, and this is something that Josh goes on to say later in the episode, which is, I hate to say it, like really fucking cool and clever, and I wish it wasn't Josh Lyman that was saying it, but like making it something that's a more like formalized industry is a way of like protecting workers, allowing them to join unions, allowing them to get healthcare, allowing people to just openly talk about the work that they do is a way of destigmatizing an industry. And anyway, I don't need to go on about this for ages. I'm just saying that Amy, maybe if we'd met in 2001, we probably wouldn't have been mates.
I also think, you know, maybe we would have, because it was an entirely different context. And although you and I both have friends now who are sex workers, the different level of stigma that existed in 2001 might have meant that we weren't actually aware of the fact that they were sex workers. They might have been less open about it.
It's true. I just feel like it's frustrating to me that like we had Laurie. Laurie was a character in this show who was doing sex work, who wasn't coerced into it, who wasn't being forced to do it. She was like, I would like to pay my college tuition and like not come out of law school like in absolute dire economic circumstances. So I'm going to work as an escort.
That is so true.
And like, I mean, I guess that's probably why Aaron's doing it. And actually it's a really interesting thing to bring up is like, you know, you had this character that was very like revered by other characters. And when she was used as a pawn, had something to say about it. And then you have Amy who's like, I speak for all women. So it's very interesting. Anyway, should we talk about the balloon animals?
Please.
We kind of stopped talking about politics and there's just kind of like some general like hijinks between Amy and Josh and just sort of like some general flirting. And Leigh, like, do we think they've been together?
I was like, what is the energy? Are they exes? It was giving an ex kind of energy. I was also like, maybe like college exes, because it felt like two people who were not used to dealing with each other in a professional sense. It felt like two people who were like, look at us, so grown up.
And there was a touch of that. And like, kind of like, hey, like when we were just like watching movies in your dorm room, you didn't have these kinds of ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's balloon animals. And Josh is like, what's going on there? And she's like, oh, I make them for my nephews. And this is a fantastic put down. He goes, are they abstract?
I'm a beginner.
Then kind of Josh is like, look, we kind of don't need women to like win stuff, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Cue Amy saying something very insightful.
Hey, I'm not screwing around. The women's vote isn't just half your constituency. It's the entire margin of victory.
Who else are you going to vote for?
I don't know, but in the meantime, I don't think you've appointed enough women to the federal bench, so...
Amy.
Yeah, we'll hold up your other nominations. I didn't burn my bras, Jay. In fact, I like my bras. I ring your bell when it's important.
Great. So obviously I want to talk about ring your bell because I kind of love that as a phraseology, but I think we're going to go back to Jay.
Yeah. The continued use of Jay made me go like, is there any possible planet in which they've not fucked?
They've had sex. I don't think you can call someone Jay if you've not seen them naked.
The fact that she never once calls him Josh.
And for me, that's what's giving college girlfriend because there's a level of possessiveness about it.
Yes.
Like I'm the only one that uses this nickname. Like it's this thing that we had that like you wouldn't understand. It feels very intimate.
Yes.
Then Josh is further disturbed by art.
I love that he's so disturbed because the images of women are not made for the male gaze. That's what's bothering him.
Yeah, and I do think that Josh is the sort of guy who's like the art he's into is like old movie posters and like black and white photographs of musicians.
Yeah.
Let's meet Evan and Mary from the Smithsonian.
I'm obsessed that Toby makes Evan and Mary report facts back to him from the materials for the meeting. But then when they say, well, if you've not reviewed the materials, Toby says, well, of course I've reviewed the materials.
It's very sexy to be informed.
It really is.
So what's happened is it's the anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. And so the Smithsonian is doing this kind of like special, what would you call it, exhibition. And essentially some veterans have like taken issue with the fact that they don't think it's balanced enough. And they think it's kind of almost inciting guilt from the kind of American influence in the war.
It is a little bit giving kind of like un-American activities.
Yeah.
I think we're very quick to go, it's anti-American sentiment. And it's like, is it anti-American or is it just a balanced history?
Sure. And I think that's what Evan and Mary are saying.
Yeah.
And actually, I think Toby's kind of with Evan and Mary, but he's also like, hey guys, it's election year. We kind of need veterans to vote for Jed.
Yeah.
Because that's quite a big voting population who are very active voters.
Yeah, especially in 2000, you know, there was a lot more World War II vets still alive then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that he's being smart about it in that way and being like, look, maybe we need to kind of like put these particular thoughts aside and just think about what we can do to make these veterans happy in this election year. But back to Jay. Jay's back in the West Wing.
And I did feel the need to copy out this entire exchange with Donna.
Yes. Would you like to be Josh or Donna?
I'll be Josh.
Excellent.
It's bluster. The appointments aren't going to be held up, at least not by Lady Godiva.
Tell me she wasn't bare-breasted, at least outside of your imagination.
She was. I'm saying she wants to front off. It's not like there's a moral imperative to get behind what? Equity and insurance coverage for contraception or whatever the ladies want. More money for sewing notions and whatnot.
Suffrage, for instance, and the right to smoke.
If she wants to throw heat, we can hold off a few months backing for the Child Support Enforcement Act.
Well, you don't want to do that.
Of course I don't want to do that, Donna. I'm a friend to the working mom.
You want her to have sewing notions.
I do.
Can I ask you something? Do you think it's possible there's a broader point?
No. Why? There's so much to unpack in this exchange. He refers to Amy as Lady Godiva.
And then is like, yes, I did imagine her bare-breasted.
Why are we talking about her breasts?
Also, I will say that Donna brought up her breasts, which
She
really
did.
surprised me.
Well, because I think Donna is jealous. Donna knows that there's an energy.
Yeah, and I think I can't stop thinking about I'm a Friend to the Working Mom and Sewing Notions.
Yeah, I really need to hone in on the fact that Josh boils down all of the goals of the women's movement down to more money for Sewing Notions. Now, has there been a crafting renaissance since the pandemic? Yes, there have. I'm going to go ahead and say Sewing Notions in 2001 were not on trend.
No.
No one is thinking about Sewing Notions but you, Jay.
Shut up, Jay. Yeah, I thought it was phenomenal. Like, that's like classic, like really snippy Sorkin writing, and it was really good. But then I feel like that boiled down to us making these deductions about Josh Lyman.
Josh is the kind of man who doesn't wear condoms because contraception is, quote, down to the girl if it's important to her. AKA, it feels better for him, and it's never occurred to him that STIs exist.
And it would be something that he would be given by a girl, making it her fault.
Yes.
I fully endorse your workings here. I just think there is something very the good guy about that as well.
There always has been with Josh. There's always been a touch of the good guys with Josh.
Yeah. I can't express how I have sat with so many male friends and they have been like, oh, like I went on this date or like I hooked up with this person. And in their telling of the story, I'm like, and where was your responsibility? And where at any point did you say, no, like I should have come with 50% of the preparation for this?
Say what you want about Joey Tribbiani. The man carried condoms around in his wallet.
He was prepared. He knew if he wanted to get laid, he had to at least come to the table with something.
Joey Tribbiani, an icon of safe sex. Safer sex, I should say.
Phenomenal. Then I went on another kind of tirade in the shared doc. But this is my final kind of point, which was surrounding the like Laurie of it all. I wonder if the reason why Laurie was someone who was like allowed to be in sex work was because she was a educated woman and she was using the money to like fund college.
On her way to a white collar profession.
For sure. And so maybe what the zeitgeist was at the time in the early 2000s is actually there was a problem with working class, less educated women doing sex work.
Because there's a very similar storyline in Grey's Anatomy with Izzy stripping.
Doing the lingerie modelling and stripping.
To pay for medical school. So I think it was something in the zeitgeist of like, nice girls can do it temporarily. Yeah. But it's different if it's somebody's permanent career.
Yeah. There's a great character in ER who actually she has guest starred in as the, what's the name? So she was the journalist that...
Sherry,
yes, who pissed off CJ. She's in ER. She plays a character called Loretta Sweet, who's a sex worker. And Mike kind of has like a kind of continuing storyline for a season or so. And at no point do any of the characters in ER go, have you ever thought about throwing this all behind you? She's like, no, I'm doing it because it kind of works well at the moment. And then she does get an office job and she's like, that's really great. And like, I'm not doing sex work anymore, but it's not like virtue signaled in the way that like everyone's like, thank God she's not on the streets.
Yeah, it's not about her being saved.
They're like, oh, that's really good because now you have a job, you can get medical insurance.
Right, yeah.
And like, that's the positive of it rather than like, wow, what a fucking tramp. Anyway, we then have a great meeting in CJ's office.
Every interaction Josh has with a woman in this entire episode is mental.
So I just came from seeing Amy Gardner.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Well, I showed her who's boss.
Who'd that turn out to be?
It's still unclear.
I love CJ just immediately reading him for filth.
Yeah. But back to the cows, Leigh.
Yes, I do need to mention that Aaron Sorkin has decided that the theme of this episode is going to be women, subplot, cows.
What I will do is shout out Bradley Whitford for having a really incredible response to the news of the mad cow disease. So his reaction to the presumptive positive test, I think, is super valid. Now, in my opinion, I believe that mad cow disease needs a rebrand. Because it's an incredibly serious and devastating disease that is still having impact even now.
Yes, I mean, I couldn't give blood in the States for a long, long time because I was born in the Netherlands in the 90s when I think mad cow was happening in the Netherlands. Yeah.
So I just think that, unfortunately, it's been given a very silly name. Because mad cow disease, on the face of it, is a funny name for a disease. But growing up in the 90s in the UK, like, and my dad works in the farming industry, like, this was just something that, like, if you heard those words around the dinner table, you were like, oh, okay, I'm probably not going to see dad for a couple of months because he's just going to be working around the clock trying to, help people deal with this. It was kind of crazy. And I feel like over the last few weeks, I've been watching a bunch of documentaries and like becoming more aware of news stories. Bill Clinton fucking went through the ringer when he was president. Not saying that I feel sorry for him. Literally, that's the job of the president. But like, he had such a vast array of like huge news stories happen while he was president across the board. Like the fact that he was like dealing with mad cow, like heavily involved in like Middle Eastern peace processes. Also like a rise of like internal terrorism in the United States. It's kind of mad that happened all within one administration.
One administration, yeah.
But anyway, enough about mad cow disease. Should we flip back to seatbelts?
Yes. And I do need to mention that Sam is having a meeting with the dad from Modern Family.
Yes, which I didn't expect. And also now, do we think this is the most crackers and bonkers scene this show has ever done?
Yeah, maybe.
So
maybe. Because tonally, the guy from Modern Family is in Modern Family, not the West Wing.
Oh, yeah. Like he's like had a chat with Rob Lowe before they started shooting and they've just decided to match each other's energy.
Yeah.
So I don't understand where the guy from Modern Family is from. Is he he has a job for some department, right?
Question mark.
It's unclear. Anyway, it seems that the whole scene, rather than being about seatbelts, ends up being about whether or not Josh Lyman has insulted the Rotary Club.
Yeah, there's a lot of the word Rotarian being thrown around.
Josh Lyman shouldn't make jokes about Rotarians. They're good people. Now, I thought the Rotary Club was like a very British thing. Like, I genuinely was like, oh, this is just a thing that like retired people do in the UK.
Right.
Turns out, really not. Like, really, really not. Like, also, I was kind of aware that I kind of thought it was some sort of like kind of community fundraising thing, which obviously it is. But like, it's like a humanitarian organization. But that was kind of a wild thing where essentially the dad from Modern Family was like, I'm a Rotarian. And then Sam was like, well, I'm an elk. And I was like, what the fuck is an elk? And I had to Google that. And that's another type of like club that like helps raise money for like community and humanitarian. What's going on?
I don't know. I think it's just like clubs of men.
But it's not just
putting
men.
Down each other's clubs.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. It was just a really bizarre scene. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but I had no idea what was going on.
I will just say very quickly on the scene where we quickly shoot back to the issue of Josh and sex work, just me marveling at the fact that I never thought I'd come down on Josh Lyman's side on a women's issue.
Yeah. He has a speech about it, which is just incredibly informed. And I hated myself for being like, wow, I agree entirely with you, Josh.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it? Here's to Toby entering a room full of veterans and going, hello, I'm Toby, I'll be your referee. Really great scene with these veterans.
Obsessed with them calling Toby son. It's brilliant.
Yes. And then like not a crossover with one of the veterans and like Band of Brothers. Shout out to Battle of the Bulge and Bastogne, aka my favorite episode of Band of Brothers, Bastogne. CJ comes in. We're like, oh, CJ's just going to like say hi to the veterans, maybe keep a pulse on this story in case she needs to. And then she kind of like starts on the veterans.
Yeah.
Which, you know, she can do. She's allowed to do that. But it really did feel like I was like, ooh, like CJ, this doesn't feel like the right time or place.
Yeah, didn't super get the point that CJ was trying to make.
Yeah. She just kind of was like, she's just raging at the world, I think.
Yeah.
And understandably, Toby like kind of takes her out of the meeting and is like, can you just like can you get out? And she was like, if I was living in Qumar, I wouldn't be able to say shove it up your ass, Toby. But since I'm not, shove it up your ass, Toby. And then she just walks away, as she should. And it is nice to see her walking away more.
Yes.
But yeah, time for a team meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So the culmination of the seatbelt suing thing is that a woman and her husband weren't wearing seatbelts in their car, and her husband died in a car accident.
Mm-hmm.
And because Jed Bartlet made a comment, like a kind of very offhand comment about seatbelts in a speech, she's basically saying, well, the president basically endorsed not wearing a seatbelt. And that has caused me to lose my husband. Now, I wasn't expecting a mention of Mrs. Landingham.
No, me either.
And actually, I should have expected it through the whole seatbelt debacle. But he brings up Mrs. Landingham and the fact that obviously she was wearing a seatbelt and she still died in a car accident.
Of course Mrs. Landingham was wearing her seatbelt. Of course she was.
And then he says about the woman who's suing him, I'm not blaming her. She had to go somewhere with her grief and her anger. The ones who should be horsewhipped are the ones exploiting her grief for political gain. And I'm not getting down with those guys. I feel like that was a really nice way to kind of wrap up that storyline, which
Agreed.
was, I'm not pissed off at this woman for trying to sue me. I think there's people who are egging her on to sue me who don't actually care about the fact that she's grieving. And this isn't about the loss of her husband. This is about winning some political points.
Yeah.
Which just like reinforces that I would vote for Jed. But we're going back to Mad Cow and whether or not we're going to tell the public. Leigh, where do you stand on this?
It's so tough, but I think I would have to agree with you that I think it's better not to.
Like at that time, it would have had absolutely catastrophic and long-term impact. And like mass hysteria. Like people are still dealing now with the health impacts from Mad Cow because it's been passed down like to people's children who never, in fact, so there are people who are like lifelong vegetarians who have never eaten meat who have been impacted by this. It's like, it's not a joke. And I get where CJ is coming from. I so get where she's coming from. Like, we can't be the administration that keeps secrets.
Yes.
But I'm with Toby. Like, you also can't be the administration that tells people they can't trust hamburgers.
Yeah.
The sign off to this scene is simply Jed going, go and apologize to CJ for whatever you did.
I didn't do anything.
Like that matters.
Thank you, sir. Beautiful.
Should we talk about Josh meeting Amy at the end of her working day?
It's so like catching her coming out of the gym is so like waiting for her at her locker at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Also love that Josh, in his argument to Amy about sex work, brings up Eleanor Roosevelt standing up for sex workers.
Yes.
We love to bring our pro-sex work queen into the discussion.
And again, a stunning valid point from Josh Lyman, I can't believe that we're doing this again, is how am I not supposed to call you a hypocrite when you say the government shouldn't tell women what to do with their bodies?
A valid point. But then I love Amy because she goes, Josh, why are you here?
Again, a valid point.
Call him out. And then she asks the question, are you dating your assistant? This is interesting for multiple reasons. A, I love that she just point blank asks him to his face. But B, that means that Josh and John are in the rumor mill.
Yeah. And then she's like, I heard you might be.
Dead. But he gives her this look and he like smiles. And I've never noticed that he has like dimples before.
He looks at her like he's going to eat her up.
Get away from me. Get away from me. The chemistry, Fiona, the chemistry.
And then he walks away and hails a cab. Which we've already discussed is a very sexually attractive thing for someone to do, is just like seamlessly hail a cab.
But not before she hits him with a water balloon from her office balcony.
Which was very funny. It's very college.
It's very college. Also in the middle of Washington, D.C. Are you insane?
And he's like, Classic Amy. You know, the way he's like, what's she like? She's just a kooky girl. Should we like close out with Nancy and CJ in CJ's office? Because this scene was amazing.
Them in a room together, I've never been so happy.
I don't think we've had a scene where it's just the two of them, right?
No, I don't know that they've ever had a direct conversation with each other. I think Nancy's...
It hasn't been a group scene. Yeah.
I think Nancy's only ever had scenes with Jed and Leo.
Or at least she's been like coming out of a meeting while like other people have been coming in. Like potentially Josh has been involved. Very, very interesting scene. And actually something that felt very politically motivated from the show. Essentially, CJ's kind of like, I think Nancy's gone to CJ because she knows CJ's got this big bee in her bonnet about the arms agreement with Qumar. And I think CJ's like, as a woman, Nancy, I don't know how you can stand for this. One of the things CJ says is, at least we'll be familiar with the weapons they'll be using. Which I think in 2001... in the context of like Afghanistan... is very, very interesting for the show to be making comments like that.
Yeah.
What a scene.
What a powerhouse scene. Also, I love the choice to write this scene in. Nancy didn't have to go and have this conversation with CJ, but she chose to. And I think that's like an incredible point to Nancy's character.
It's the 21st century, Nancy. The world's gotten smaller. I don't know how we can tolerate this kind of suffering anymore, particularly when all it does is continue the cycle of anti-American hatred. But that's not the point either.
What's the point?
The point is that apartheid was an East Hampton clam bake compared to what we laughingly refer to as the life these women lead. And if we sold M1A1s to South Africa 15 years ago, you'd have set the building on fire. Thank God we never needed to refuel in Johannesburg.
It's a big world, CJ, and everybody has guns, and I'm doing the best I can. I love that we're seeing Nancy more and more outside of the Situation Room.
Definitely.
And she's becoming a kind of more multi-layered character. I also just like, is this one of the first Bechdel passing conversations we've had?
I think it could
in
be
the show's run.
I think it could be in that, like, I think we've had scenes where like women have been talking to women, but because of the power dynamic between them, it's often been about work that a man is asking them to do.
Yeah, I mean, any scene with Donna, she's generally talking about Josh.
Something that I loved about this was like they both are making firm and good arguments. And you know what? It's really lovely to see two women disagree, but with respect for one another.
Yes, agreed. It's not catty, it's not bitchy, it's an entirely respectful but impassioned debate.
At no point are we going to, in a few episodes' time, have CJ be like, you know, I can't stand Nancy.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to happen.
No, and they were allowed to make passionate arguments without it being like, oh, they were getting emotional, you know?
Yeah. And actually, CJ's emotional response after Nancy leaves is my favorite kind of emotional response.
She basically gives us a full Emma Thompson smoothing the bedspread in Love Actually, because she's so passionate about what she's saying that she's got like tears in her eyes as Nancy walks away. But then she has to go and give a press briefing. And so she just swallows it all down.
Walks out behind the like podium and is like, oh, it's someone's birthday in the press corps and there's cake. What a genius move to like have that scene between her and Nancy. I've literally got goosebumps. Have that scene between her and Nancy and then have her walk out. And have to be like, hey, it's Brian's birthday.
It's so good. And then what made me cry was Toby gives like a non-verbal apology to her from the back of the press briefing room.
He gives her like a look and like a nod. That's like, I love you and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But without words. And I cried.
It's the most, I'm going to go ahead and say Toby and CJ's friendship is the most respectful male-female platonic relationship that I've seen on television.
Yes.
It means a lot to me, their friendship.
Well, the thing is, it's because he loves her.
Yeah.
And like, as actors, both of them, they've chosen that their characters love one another. And that it's entirely platonic, but that it's very deep love. And I just don't think that everyone feels like you can go there because then people might think they're actually going to be together. That's never a question.
No,
like,
no.
It's he behaves to her like she's his sister.
Yes.
And you've got no doubt of his like trust and love and like respect for her, but also that he would back her to the hilt.
Yes.
I do find it very moving that. Because it's a two-way street the way that they are for one another.
Mm.
And I hope that we get a little bit more of that backstory at some point, because obviously we know that he came out to California to be like, you should come work on this campaign. But like, I kind of want to know how they knew each other before then.
What bonded them? Yeah.
But beautiful. What a beautiful way to end the episode. What an episode.
What an episode. One of my all-time faves, which I keep saying, but wow.
Shall we to the quickfires?
Best fashion.
I mean, I've got to say that like Abby's continual kind of like mob wife look in the wheelchair is becoming kind of a firm favorite for me.
Yes. Also Donna's burgundy suit for me.
No, yeah, you're right. It was cut so well, and it was the perfect color of burgundy.
Mm-hmm.
What could a British or Irish politician never get away with?
Again, being obsessed with the Romans and the Crusades, for that matter.
Yeah. There's kind of a bit of an ick there, isn't there? Really.
Mm-hmm.
What's the queerest moment that never intended to be queer?
Why does CJ and Toby's friendship feel like the kind of bond that the two queer people in the group would have?
This does feel correct.
It feels like they're the two queers of the West Wing, just in the quality of their bond.
Yes. And I think, do you think that's because it doesn't feel gendered?
Yes.
Whereas
yes.
I feel that CJ and Josh have a really good friendship. But I feel like he's like, yeah, but like I'm a dude and you're a chick, you know?
100%.
So maybe that's why it feels queer. I'd like to shout out that personally, I think that there was a lot of queer energy in the scene with Sam and the dad from Modern Family, Rotarians and Elks.
Yes.
Like at the end of it, if one of them had been like, and I suppose we should go for dinner tomorrow night. Well, yes, absolutely. And we can talk about this further. Like I just kind of thought that's where it was going.
Yeah.
Best writerly moment?
Well, it showed her who's boss.
Who'd it turn out to be?
It's still unclear.
Yeah, very good, very good. I obviously am going to plumb for hello, I'm Toby. I'll be your referee. Very fun. Man, I feel like a man.
Equity and insurance coverage for contraception or whatever the ladies want. More money for sewing notions and whatnot.
It's really got to be up there, hasn't it? I think also a good contender is she knows who the good guys are, right?
Horrific, yeah.
Horrific. And then just a shout out to modern American history sucks.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah.
And Leigh, what was the moment that made you proudest to be an American?
CJ, watching Nancy walking away, knowing her feelings have been heard, but they're not going to make an impact on policy. Then stepping right up to the podium and saying, we have 2 birthdays today.
Yeah. I think that for me is twinned with Toby's wordless apology.
Yeah. For sure.
That is who men should aspire to be. A kind of grumpy divorcee with a receding hairline and an unhealthy relationship with his job, who just has so much respect for the women that he works with.
Yeah.
I love Toby Ziegler.
Don't we all?
I'd love to go. I'd take him out for dinner.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about men who have the same body type and look as Toby Ziegler. Yeah. What's wrong with me? Now, Leigh, it's time to learn something. And I'm really excited because you said that it's a really good study session. So I'm on the edge of my seat.
We are going to talk today about who even is Lou Graham.
Who is Lou Graham?
Yeah. So I'm going kind of hyper specific in that we're not going to learn about like some political leader, but we are going to learn about a woman who I think represents many women, but we're just going to do a specific case study into her and the impact that she had on her community and her city.
Cool.
She's a Seattle icon.
I see.
When you came to Seattle, Fi, did we do the underground tour?
We did do the underground tour.
Incredible. Okay. So for those of you who haven't been to Seattle, or those of you who are going to go to Seattle.
Oh my God, do it.
Please do the underground tour. It's really fun. It's always led by local actors. It's really funny. It's a real deep dive into Seattle as Wild West outpost.
Which is something that I think deep down, like when Leigh was kind of explaining to me like the Oregon Trail, I was like, okay, because I'm a very competitive person.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me is like, if I had been someone who would have gone west,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think I would have made it.
I think you would have, not to mention because a lot of the rations would have been cornmeal rather than gluten.
Famously, one of my faves.
But so one of the main resources when we're talking about the period that we're going to talk about today is a book called Sons of the Prophets, or There's No Business Like Grow Business, The Seattle Story, 1851 to 1900 by William C. Speedle. He wrote the book in the 1960s in an effort to save the Pioneer Square area of Seattle from being demolished, which it's one of the most beautiful areas of Seattle, in my opinion. There is also a big homelessness problem there still to this day, which existed in the 60s, still exists in 2025, which is obviously really, really tough. But I think it's a really important historical monument. So I'm very grateful to this Seattle icon for saving that area. He wasn't like a professional historian, though. He kind of wrote the history on Seattle, but in a kind of like mythical town crier fashion.
Oh, I love that.
Do you know what I mean?
That's so fun.
And unfortunately, it's really the only resource that we have because nobody wanted to talk about this history for reasons that we'll get into.
I can imagine.
He was the only person who was writing about it while people who knew the people involved were still alive. Because you got to think in the 1960s, there were people alive who were born pre-1900.
Oh my God, yeah.
So this book is really our only resource other than like official government documents. But Hannah Brooke Olson, writing for the Seattle Met in 2022, wrote about his book. His stories were gleaned from old timers who wanted to chat, not in-depth examinations of property records. There are puns and ellipses, but hardly any sourcing to be found. These were exuberant tales, not stuffy historical volumes. In many ways, his inclusion of Graham, who we're going to be talking about today, Lou Graham, and her Ladies of Hades preserved them as important members of the city's past, but the work also seemed to stop when Speedle did. He died in 1988. As a result, his version, accurate or not, is the only one left. So the underground tour that I mentioned was also started by him. And so the history that you learn on the underground tour is very much taught out of this book.
That's okay, cool.
But it's so crazy that one man who wasn't even actually a historian is responsible for saving the only historical record that we have, really, other than kind of newspaper articles from the time and official records. Yeah. Now, Seattle Met magazine, January 29th, 2010, says, long before Seattle made jets, software, or coffee, it built crib houses, box houses, and brothels. Lots of them, including the world's biggest. Prostitution runs as deep as rain through Seattle's history.
Love that quote.
Somewhat complicatedly, Seattle Magazine also published a timeline of the history of sex work in Seattle titled Sex in Our City, A Seattle Timeline, a look at our sometimes scandalous history.
Classic.
However, Charlotte White, who identifies as a Seattle provider of sex work and the founder of the Seattle Sex Workers Alliance, she also identifies as an artist and devoted cat mom, wrote for Tristlink, which is a blog where sex workers can write about their experiences and advocate, run by a small team of sex workers dedicated to documenting the lived experiences of our community and positioning sex workers as the experts in the sex industry. And Charlotte White, writing for them, wrote, Seattle, the Emerald City, is most well known for Starbucks and Amazon, but this Northwest jewel boasts a more colorful history than roasted beans and drunk ordering clothes for your dog at midnight. Sex workers, brothels, and madams built this city.
I'm having so much fun because this is part of the underground tour. Like, I didn't expect this for the Seattle's history, and I remember being on the underground tour and being like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just like set the scene, if you will. 1800s Seattle, and indeed most of the West Coast. The white population is 90% male.
Yeah.
Because prior to the railroad coming in, almost the entire white population, as you previously mentioned, Fi, had arrived via the Oregon Trail. Which for those American listeners will remember the computer game, it's incredibly difficult to survive. There are also, at this time, like 100,000 loggers, aka unmarried men, in the surrounding areas of Seattle. Only a fraction live in the city limits, but they come into Seattle as the town where they get supplies, come to vibe, socialize for once. The life of a logger in 1800s Pacific Northwest sounds so bleak, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, honestly.
Which means that sex work was often kind of a means of economic survival for women of all ethnicities in the Northwest at this time. Cue the arrival in 1853 of Seattle's first madam, Mary Ann Conklin, who sailed with her husband, Captain David Bull Conklin, on a whaling ship out of Alaska until they had some kind of marital dispute and he abandoned her in Port Townsend on the Olympic Peninsula.
Which is also an amazing, like what happened?
What the hell happened? I would love to write a screenplay about this woman's life. So she arrives in Seattle and somehow she gets herself from Port Townsend to Seattle. God knows how. And then she, again, God knows how, takes over managing Felker House, which was Seattle's first hotel. I would love, it's lost to history how she ended up pulling this off, but her lavish profanity in 6 languages, English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, and German, earned her the alias Mother Damnable.
Again, that's just incredible, isn't it?
And she diversifies the business of the hotel by adding a brothel upstairs. It's also noted by newspapers at the time that she would carry rocks in her apron to throw at people.
And so she should. She should. Specifically
when anyone would ask for a receipt, she would simply start paling them with rocks.
Yeah, great.
Now, in 1860, Dorothea Oben is born in Germany. Her stage name would become Lou Graham, but she's not arriving in Seattle for a while still. Then in 1861, a man named John Pennell arrives in Seattle. He gets off of a San Francisco lumber schooner, which just the concept of traveling on a lumber schooner, just for a moment.
Yeah.
He arrives on the Seattle Sandspit. He's described as tall, saccharine, suave, often to be found wearing a flowered waistcoat.
I immediately am intrigued.
He was a San Francisco brothel owner. And he immediately arrives, introduces himself to the sheriff, shows his credentials, which is that he is a long and kind of mutually beneficial relationship with the San Francisco police. And he proposes that he take land that was previously considered wasteland and a previously untaxed product, sex work, and he contribute money to the city in taxes to pay for money to build schools, roads, law enforcement, other infrastructure that the city needed. The sheriff agrees. John Pennell launches Seattle's first bawdy house, or its first kind of official brothel, on the Sawdust Fill below Mill Street. So if you recall from the Underground tour, Seattle at this point was built on tidal flats. So it would flood every day. So which was just such poor planning, but that's a story for another time. So he launches the Elahi, which is a Chinook name for home away from home. Locals called it the Madhouse or the Sawdust Pile. The first sex workers that worked there were Native American women. Local Native Americans at the time were living in poverty. And John Pennell went to the local Native American leaders and basically made a deal that if young Native American women came to work for him, he would provide them with food, shelter, clothing, and gainful employment. And then those women could send money back to their home communities. And so he was really looked at as a savior by the local Native American community and also by the loggers who had not seen a woman in a very long time.
Yeah.
In the book that I previously mentioned, Bill Spedell is quoted as saying, to the thousands of loggers who occupied the outposts of civilization on Puget Sound, the Elahi came to represent warmth, friendliness, woman, and the chance to kick up their heels a little and forget the most desolate of all emotions, the feeling of not being wanted.
Oh, God.
Landowners and other merchants were thrilled because it kept the men in the city longer on their visits.
Right, yeah.
And then they would spend their money
in
at other vendors. When the legislator incorporated Seattle as a city, the city's debt limit was $5,000. Pinnell's license fee alone was $1,200. So he was the brothel owner was the biggest single contributor to public works.
Wow. Whoa.
So when you say Seattle was built on sex work, it's quite literal.
Yeah.
Sex work paid for Seattle to be built. Now, the loggers were paid via drafts from San Francisco banks, and local bankers charged 10% to cash their paychecks, whereas Pinnell cashed their checks for free, leaving the loggers with $7 to $14 that they would not have otherwise had.
And that they could then spend however they wished.
They could then spend on 50-cent drinks. The company of a Native American sex worker was $2 to $5. And therefore, these men brought $70,000 a month in the 1800s into the city of Seattle.
That's insane money, isn't it?
It's insane money. Now, Seattle starts booming because in 1869, coal is discovered in King County, which is the county that Seattle is within. Yeah. This created a real estate boom because the discovery of coal was reported in the newspapers in Portland and San Francisco, which were much bigger cities at the time. And so property lots in Seattle that had gone for $50 in January of that year, by late summer were selling for $500.
Whoa.
Also, railroad engineers were surveying Snoqualmie Pass and working from and staying in Seattle to decide whether Seattle would be the ideal location for the railroad terminus. The logging camps were booming as well, with Seattle as a geographic center. And Seattle was starting to rival Olympia for population size. Olympia was 1,100 population in 1869. Seattle was 1,000 people. But Seattle almost lost out to being the railroad terminus to Tacoma, because Tacoma was a less developed town at the time. They thought they could just buy up the whole waterfront, control the whole town, all of the real estate, basically own the town of Tacoma. Whereas Seattle, a lot of the land had already been bought up.
Yeah.
So John Pinnell comes to the rescue yet again. He essentially puts on a show. He arrives back in Seattle to save Seattle he brings with him from San Francisco, essentially white women.
Just a boat full of women.
Well, a lumber schooner full of women.
Oh, for sure.
Again, in Bill Spedell's book, and there appeared before the incredulous eyes of the hangers-on a marvelous parade. Down the gangplank tripped a dozen white damsels, all dazzling in form-fitting bombazine frocks, French-heeled shoes, silk stockings, and the war paint of their profession.
What a description.
Yeah. It's a very entertaining read. And John Pinnell escorted them to the Elahi, which basically formed a whole new district, which at the time was referred to as Whitechapel or the Tenderloin, which was referred to as the Las Vegas of Puget Sound.
Wow.
They were basically dance hall girls from San Francisco who had previously worked at John Pinnell's brothels in San Francisco. Again, Seattle's Tenderloin was the greatest economic resource the city had because sex workers individually paid $10 a month to the city, and the funds basically paid to operate the city. And had they not been there to pay that money, there might not have been a city.
Yeah.
Because they added $100,000 to the city's budget per year. 2 years later, John Pinnell leaves the scene when he marries one of the sex workers who works at his brothel, and they buy an estate in Eastern Washington. And he lived off the proceeds of the Elahi until he died in 1883. But a major player in the building of Seattle, as much as any of the founding fathers of Seattle, if not more so, because the founding fathers of Seattle planned a mad city built on tidal flats.
That they then had to rebuild again when it inevitably kind of, yeah.
Well, we'll get there. But what changes is in 1884, Washington women became the first in the US to win the right to vote. The first state.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Unfortunately, that launched a political battle between morality advocates, many of them women, and the boosters of, quote, business, aka the vice business, aka sex work. And in 1884, the same year, the first ordinance restricting sex work appears in Seattle.
Right.
It banned, quote, soliciting prostitution upon any of the public streets, but more specifically, it made the mere presence of, quote, dissolute Indian women after dark criminal.
Right. Okay. So it's like racially motivated.
Yeah. So it's not just that we're restricting sex work, it's that we are criminalizing the presence of Native American women on the streets after dark.
Yeah.
And basically that meant that it favored box houses, as they were known, which were low-end theaters where actresses served drinks and provided sexual services. And those were staffed by white and Asian women, generally.
Right. Okay.
Which brings us to the arrival of Lou Graham into Seattle's history. She arrived in the US as an immigrant from Germany as a teenager named Elsie Oben, alone, at 16 years old. So she arrives into New York, then she disappears from the historical record until her late 20s when she shows up in Seattle.
Wow. That in itself is like the most, I want to know what happened.
Yeah. It's unclear what happened in the time in between. The moment when she arrives in Seattle in 1888 is a moment of huge growth for Seattle. Seattle's just gotten its first telephone, first city hall, first courthouse, first electric lights, first city charter. It finally gets a chamber of commerce. But it is arguable that among all of those firsts in 1888, actually, Lou Graham arriving was the biggest deal of all of them. Yeah. She arrived off the steamer Pacific Pride, and she liked to wear plumed hats and jewels. She had jet black hair and blue eyes. She stood about 5'2", and she founds a parlor house. So she went to the founders of Seattle, just like John Pennell did, and demonstrated that she was experienced in the business of sex work. But the argument she made, again, this is from Bill Spiedell's book, was that Seattle had ample facilities for catering to the needs of the run-of-the-mill soldier, sailor, logger, miner, or common adventurer. But where was the city of Seattle when it came to providing for the top hat and black tie set? Where could they send visiting dignitaries for a little bit of quiet music and relaxation from their arduous travels in the company of a lovely, intelligent, and complacent woman? Here Seattle was, attempting to get a transcontinental rail connection and become a great city. What did she have to offer in the way of plush facilities that railroad moguls had come to expect in a city like San Francisco? Nothing. Lou would conduct an enterprise the like of which Seattle had never seen, not even in John Pennell's heyday. She would provide a collection of the most glamorous, the most talented, and the most understanding hostesses from every corner of the globe. Women who could discuss the opera or politics or economics or world conditions on an intelligent level with the leaders of America. Icon. She showed up to the meeting with the founders with a full business plan, and she was also the first person to standardize prices in the sex work industry in Seattle.
Right. Okay.
Her plan was she bought a multi-story building. The ground floor was a fine parlor for those just kind of wanting a drink and some music and some companionship and conversation. Then it was $2 for the complete anonymity of upstairs, and then $5 to spend the night.
Phenomenal work from her.
There was also private booths and a drink on the house to any representative of the Seattle city government. And it was said at the time that more city business was done at Lou's parlor house than in City Hall.
And that I can believe.
Yeah. In her pitch to the founding, she said that she would pay contributions to the city government in exchange for the police department never coming anywhere near her premises.
Yes. Cutting a deal.
Yeah. She bought a premises on 3rd Avenue South in Washington for $3,000 directly opposite the largest Catholic church in the city. And to entice customers, her principal mode of advertising was that she would take carriage rides up and down the main street on a Sunday afternoon to display her ladies. And the men of the city were so familiar with her girls that they would know when a new girl was in the carriage. They would recognize that it was someone they hadn't seen before.
Oh, wow. And the excitement, the kind of the gossip.
And Lou would herself accompany her ladies on these carriage rides and give a royal wave to her personal friends, the leaders of Seattle. In 1900, the Seattle Daily Times described her as a woman well known in the Tenderloin district. Also, in the article, it talks about how she paid the legal fees of a woman who killed her abusive boyfriend in self-defense.
Wow.
She didn't know the woman, apparently, but read about her story in the paper and lent her $1,000, which is the equivalent, well, in the 60s, it was the equivalent of $35,000.
Whoa.
So God knows how much that would be today. Hannah Brooke Olson, writing for the Seattle Met, said, Graham was the closest thing this frontier town had to a reality TV star. Local papers spared no detail in chronicling her fashion and baubles. She wore diamonds at her neck, wrists, bust, and throat, not to mention the diamond-encrusted miniature dagger hat pin estimated to be worth about $8,500 today.
Like, it sounds like she's a drag queen.
Truly.
But like, and I mean that it's like the greatest compliment ever. Like, there's something very like performative about this character. Like,
Yeah.
She's like arrived. She's like, okay, this is my lot in life. I'm not happy with it. I'm going to go away. I'm going to transform. I'm changing my name. This is how I'm going to dress. This is the business that I'm going to run. Like, everything is performative, but like in the best kind of way.
I have so much to say about her. This is going to be a longer episode, but hopefully, listeners, you're also fascinated by her as a character. At her brothel, women could expect to earn 10 times the wage that they could earn as personal maids or seamstresses in garment factories.
Whoa.
She ensured that all of the women that she employed got an education so that they could mingle with important men and kind of hold up their side of the conversation. Her establishment was one of the only places in Seattle to employ Indigenous women, Chinese immigrant women, and there's even a strong suggestion that she employed transgender women as well.
Wow. You'd think that that sort of stuff would be kind of like stricken from history books or records. So the fact that that's kind of still in existence, even if it is just insinuated, feels like quite a big deal. There
is a discussion in the historical record of men specifically requesting, quote, the woman in the black dress, which is believed to be a transgender woman.
Okay.
There is also a historical report that Graham herself was queer.
I would love that.
She had a housekeeper for many, many, many years who was a single mother. And they kind of raised this woman's child together.
Leigh and I just like made eye contact there because for us this is like a tale as old as time. Because like, I love when things are written in like history books or like it's like, and she lived with a close personal friend, or her and her housekeeper lived in a home together for 70 years, and you're like, sure, and they raised a child together, her and her housekeeper. Okay, her housekeeper. Yeah.
Leonard Garfield, the director of the Museum of History and Industry in Seattle, was quoted in a feature on Lou Graham on the local news as saying, everybody in town knew her. She was frequently in the newspapers. People in the street could identify her by name. That's how important she was. She hired Indigenous women. She hired Asian American women. There's some suggestion that she hired trans people to work in her bordello. So she was a person who had a very diverse and inclusive perspective on human life, something we would associate more with contemporary attitudes than with the 19th century. I think as the 20th century wore on, we became uncomfortable with the fact that a woman running a house of prostitution could actually be considered a leading citizen. And so decade by decade, we have begun to erase our memory of Lou Graham and our real understanding of the role she played. Now, to your point earlier, Fi, in 1889, we have the Seattle Fire. 66 blocks of the main business district is in ruins. Only 18 months after Lou Graham launched her business, but she had built up enough capital in 18 months that although the city had said that you have to rebuild in the burnt area only in brick and stone, which was much more expensive, she was able to buy more land than she had originally after the fire. Having originally paid $3,000, she now invested $25,000.
Whoa.
And the building that she built, the brick and stone building that she built, is still standing today as the Union Gospel Mission in Seattle. And there's a gold plaque that you can see if you're walking past to Lou Graham's sporting house.
Stunning.
Shayna Foley, who is the general manager of Madame Lou's, which is now a local Seattle business, explains Lou Graham's role in the rebuilding after the fire, which they sorted out the title issue when they rebuilt after the fire by filling in the roads with debris and then rebuilding the buildings so that what had been the ground floor became the basement, and what had been the first floor became the ground floor. Mm-hmm. So that's the underground tour that you can do, is of what would have been the sidewalk of the original city, which is now at basement level. But Shayna Foley describes, as I say, Lou Graham's role in rebuilding. A lot of bankers weren't willing to lend to folks during the rebuilding because it was too risky. She went out on a limb to really rebuild the entire Pioneer Square area. And I think her not giving up on the city after that type of destruction is something that's very inspiring to us. And we just thought, what a great way to honor a woman who obviously had a large impact on the history of Seattle. She seems like a fierce, independent woman in a time when you weren't necessarily looked at honorably for being fierce and independent. So she essentially gave out private loans to other business owners and property owners in the Pioneer Square area to fund their rebuilding.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, isn't it?
So literally without her capital earned through sex work, Seattle would not have been able to rebuild after the fire.
Yeah.
There is then an incident when there was a crime problem in the Tenderloin district. The city decided to crack down, and a rookie cop, not knowing who she was, arrests Lou Graham in the street.
Oh, bad day to be him.
The headlines are so crazy. Lou Graham arrested, notorious Madame nailed. Madame Lou Graham has been brought to trial. On the 21st of February, she goes to court. And she was so well known. People lined the streets to see her in her carriage headed to the police station. And of course, she was dressed up to the nines. She was covered in diamonds.
Yeah, so she should. So she should.
Her attorneys were two of the most prominent men in town. J.T. Ronald, who went on to serve for 50 years as a Superior Court judge in King County, was one of the men who represented her. And then Samuel Piles was her other attorney, who went on to be the U.S. Senator for Washington State.
Wow, yeah.
And the city hall was so packed with all of the prominent businessmen of Seattle showing up to support her that the prospective jurors could not actually get into the courtroom. And so the jury had to be picked from her supporters.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Needless to say, it all turned out fine in her trial. She was found not guilty. Lou Graham eventually died in San Francisco, likely from a perforated ulcer or undiagnosed stomach cancer. But I think there's no denying that we basically have her to thank for the fact that Seattle was able to rebuild after the Seattle fire. And I think we kind of have sex work to thank that the city of Seattle exists at all.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to Seattle again. I haven't been for ages. I feel like we should do a trip.
Yeah. But I thought, given that we were having a lot of discussion around the concept of forced sex work and the concept that all sex work, from Amy Gardner's perspective, is forced sex work, I thought it was important to highlight the story of Lou Graham, but also all of the sex workers who paid for Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Leigh, I really enjoyed that. You could do tours. I would go on a tour hosted by you.
Thanks, hon. In the meantime, we will be back next week to discuss the next episode and chat some more fun history. But in the meantime, you can get us queergirlswatch@gmail.com. If you want to pop us an email, we're queergirlswatch, wherever you get your socials, and check us out on Patreon so that we can keep doing this. We really appreciate everyone who supports us there.
Thank you so much. Leigh, I'll see you next week for more fun and frolics.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.